I'm sure you've heard this story numerous times. In November, I turned 82. I looked in the mirror, trying on clothes to go out, couldn't zip a thing. I said, something has to be done. I have tried every diet, bought every pill available. And so I prayed about it. And the next day, I saw you on Real America's Voice. And I saw you again. And I saw you again. And I looked you up. Better Business Bureau, fantastic grades. I am so thrilled to have found this.
So get this, CDC data shows that around 1 in every 2 Americans is being asked by their doctor to reduce salt intake. Salt may be one of the most controversial topics in health right now. Energize Health founder John Jubilee says it's not something to be afraid of. In fact, it's essential for good health. Welcome, John Jubilee. I'm old enough to remember salt being terrible for you, then it being good for you, then it being, what's the answer, John? Is it good? Is it bad? Tell us.
Well, the answer can be found right in the Bible, the #1 selling book of all time. Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." Salt is a good thing. Salt is God's natural electrolyte. It's the most natural electrolyte on the planet Earth. Super healthy for all of us. We all need healthy salt. We need healthy potassium in our bloodstream. The catch, though, is we have to be hydrated. If we're not hydrated, then salt can be a bad thing. So we need to have our intercellular hydration, and then we can add the salt. And believe it or not, that salt will literally help you reverse your high blood pressure, reverse your high cholesterol when you're hydrated at the cellular level.
Not all salt, though, and not in complete abundance. I know some people have high blood pressure and it tends to raise your blood pressure. So where is the sweet spot, John?
No, the sweet spot, Eric, is in the hydration. So listen, we've had thousands of clients, thousands, that started with high blood pressure. And part of the protocol that we give them during their 88-day protocol is to add salt every morning and every evening. So even with their high blood pressure goes down. And again, you can look at these on the website. You can go in and look right under the category of high blood pressure. And you'll hear all these people say, I couldn't believe part of this protocol was to take salt every morning and every evening, but I followed all the steps of the protocol, and now I am completely off my blood pressure meds I was on for 10, 15, or 20 years.
Talk to us a little bit about that, the hydration, and you know, talk about salt versus blood pressure and heart disease. So it's staving off, is it reducing your blood pressure, maybe even reducing heart disease as well in over the long term?
Well, absolutely, because you know, your heart is a muscle. You know, your heart is a muscle, and it needs healthy blood. And the more hydrated your blood is, it has a thinner, healthier viscosity to it. And so it doesn't put the same strain on your heart as what we call sludge blood, when somebody has like ketchup blood because they don't have enough hydration in their blood. And also because their heart's a muscle, it is 75% water. So the more hydrated your heart is, the more healthy your heart is.
So we got about a minute or so. And what about inflammation? This is probably a completely wrong perception, but when you eat a lot of salt, you feel like bloated. That's not necessarily inflammation. It's just bloating. Is there a difference?
Well, the reality is probably 99% of people suffer. People that are dehydrated at the cellular level, they all have inflammation to some degree. And so part of that bloating, it is your body telling you that you are inflamed. And so the beautiful thing is intracellular hydration is like a river of living water, and it flushes out all the toxins and the inflammation, going to the root cause and not just dealing with the symptom. You're going to the root cause so that you can reverse your high blood pressure, your diabetes, your Crohn's disease, your Lyme's disease, arthritis, whatever you're suffering from. You can push the inflammation out, which is the real root cause of whatever your ailment is.
Yeah, it's really the root cause of just about all the really bad things that happen to us, certainly at an early age. John Jubilee, always good information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Energize Health, folks. All right, my next guest is our own RAV border correspondent, Oscar L. Blue Ramirez, who's bringing us the very latest on the Mexican drug cartels. Welcome to Oscar. Oscar, the FBI investigating a suspected Antifa terror plot to get weapons from a Mexican cartel. Portland Antifa member John Collin, hacker, who attacked independent journalist Andy Ngo, beat him up. was rough on him, was seen in Tijuana, Mexico, working with an Antifa group that was assisting human trafficking. You saw the hacker with the Antifa group. Tell us about it.
Yes, this was back in 2019 with a large group of Antifa activists arrived to a shelter, Eric, and they try to agitate, they try to take it over. And this, this character, John Hacker, was in there. He was taking pictures, inappropriate pictures of a federal Mexican agent. And I confronted the guy and I said, "What are you doing? Why are you taking pictures of the Mexican agent, of the federal agent?" Then later on, people started identifying that he was a really aggressive, mercenary activist, which he was operating in different shelters. And these groups were mobilizing through all the north borders that they were connecting to the United States. Then later on, he was located and he was seen in Arizona. Then he was located and it was seen in Juarez. And he was seen in several different locations. Why? Because these activists, what they were doing, or so-called mercenary activists, they were assisting NGOs and they were assisting law firms of NGOs that they were working out of the American taxpayer, NGOs that they were actually aiding and abetting, people that cross to the United States of America under open loopholes in immigration law, Eric.
It's amazing, those NGOs. We've been talking about it. They, believe it or not, Elon Musk exposed it because USAID was sending a lot of money to the NGOs, and the NGOs were harboring, in this case, illegal crossers, border crossers, but we don't know if they're harboring terrorists and drug cartel members as well. And they were doing it with our own taxpayer money, and they're hiding behind things like different churches, right? Denominational churches were part of the NGO group, hiding some of these people. Has that stopped?
Oh, yes, it massively stopped. And these NGOs have not completely disappeared. You have the United Nations, you have OIM, you have the UNHCR. They still are living out of the millions that they really sucked out of the American taxpayer. And a lot of these NGOs, they have completely disappeared on the epicenters. Why? Because, the Trump administration has completely cut what they were making. They were making millions out of this human suffering. They were making, hundreds of thousands out of the enormous child trafficking, the exploitation of women, and ultimately the human abuse that it was happening on the other side, Eric.
Oscar, El Blue. The Trump administration is literally blowing narco terrorists out of the water. Venezuelan terrorists coming across, bringing drugs, whatever. They're blowing them up. They're buzzing the country of Venezuela with some drones and whatnot. Has that had an effect on the Mexican drug cartel folks or activity?
Well, as we were speaking last week, for the first time in history in Tijuana, California, there was a drone attack right here, as the cartel actively did a drone attack at the fiscal general of the state. But, the cartels right here are getting brutally hurt. This is why they have been posting cartel banners consistently on different locations. And they recently got really hurt when 12 companies, they were discovered that these 12 companies were actually given precursors and illegal substances to the Chapos, as these precursors, they were made to construct to, basically made fentanyl to cross it all the way to the United States of America. This drone attack was the first done in history in Tijuana. And this shows the desperation and the level of desperation of the cartel as they are now mobilizing and being more aggressive. Marco Rubio, on his recent visit to Mexico, he signalized and he said, this is one of the things that I'm really concerned about, the cartel mobilizing and the money that they made under the Biden administration, the billions that they made under the Biden administration because of these open border policies. They mobilize more on and being more active on technology. So this is one of the examples that we are looking at right now, that it was a drone attack, that it was done on the fiscal general of the state offices right here in Tijuana.
Oscar, El Blue, I have a lot of friends who watch the show. And to a person, they say, how's Oscar doing? I'll see him, like, hey, how's Oscar doing? Because they're very concerned of some of the activities that the cartels were doing. They were hanging around your home with your children and your family. They're trying to get into your gated community for whatever, to rough you up. We don't know. How are you? What's the latest on all that nonsense?
Well, the investigations have been continuously going on. Fortunately, we have a lot of friends that they are in the ministerial police, and they are willing to protect the situation as we speak. They are telling us to safeguard ourselves in several different locations, not to go out into particular locations where they are, there's possible confrontation and we can be on the spotlight. But this is the only way, Eric. There's no other way. We need to expose the way it is. The Trump administration has been the only one that is doing this, and we've been waiting our whole lives for this moment to come, to be the cartel to be eradicated, to be eliminated, for us to have peace. I'm 44 years of age, Eric. I never had a good president in my whole life, and we have never had peace in my 44 years of existence in this planet. So this is the moment. So we need to expose it. We need to be brave, and we need to be courage, and we need to have courage to expose all the situations that are happening in our country.
Oscar, as they say, tienen cuidado, my friend. Be careful. Please be safe out there. Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you so much, Eric.
All right, folks, we'll be back 2.5 minutes.